Greetings everybody! This summer I had a pleasure to work on asset creation for music video production of a popular Russian rapper, Husky. My tasks during that project were sculpting, modeling, and texturing the likeness sculpture for the final shots of the music video in the desert. To deliver this particular asset, I only had 4 days. The team was in a hurry, and I used Blender as my main digital content creation tool. High poly sculpting and posing has been done in Zbrush, and quick cloth simulation of this particular asset's garment has been done in Marvelous Designer. Textures were created in Substance Painter. So, if you really like rap music, cyberpunk, and post-apocalyptic vibes, please consider checking that music video out, the link in the description of this video. As for this current video, I have recorded my whole process of working on the asset, and now I would like to walk you through the process of creating the asset from the very start to its final shape. So, without further ado, let's hop into the viewport. First things first, I was quickly briefed with details about the project and got a general idea on what needed to be done, and the team provided me with some reference photos from the set. Also, CGI director of the project sent me a quickly made photogrammetry that they had shot on the set during the live action filming. The photogrammetry model the team have provided was quite rough and had missing limbs and body, so I had to create basic topology and recreate the rest of the body of the main protagonist. So I quickly positioned the mesh of the head of the model in my viewport and started using retopology tools and used geometry extracted from photogrammetry as a guideline for my final model. As you can see on the screen, for the purposes of retopology, I used PolyQuilt add-on. In my opinion, this is one of the best, simplest, and reliable solutions for retopology in Blender as of now, and I have been using it very often this year. So I quickly get rid of all the unnecessary details on the photogrammetry model and created a low poly mesh that I will be using further on for high poly sculpting. I have used Blender's sculpting tools to emphasize details of the main protagonist of the video. He had this cyberpunk-like seams all over his body, which were crucial to recreate as they are repeated throughout the whole music video. I make some mistakes along the way at this stage and further down the road, but quickly fixed them after receiving feedback from the team lead. After I have finished the low poly base mesh of the whole head, mouth, and part of the chest, I brought my own human base mesh that I have created for my personal use years ago. And all I had to do is to align the geometry of the body of my generic base mesh model with the retopologized head. Upon finishing this process, I have sent the model to Zbrush for sculpting. During this first sculpting pass, I have been working only on general proportions, emphasizing certain anatomical details and the body frame of the main protagonist of the video. As you can see during that preliminary sculpting phase, I worked mostly in symmetry mode, as I don't want to mess things up at first. I also emphasized the main shapes and focus on the character's face as a main point of interest. After I have finished the first pass of sculpting, I have dropped my sculpt back into Blender and started quickly applying some materials to give it a sculpture-like look and sent it to the CGI director to check the progress out. I've received the feedback for further fixes and moved on to the second pass of sculpting. During the second pass of sculpting, I have put more emphasis on the main character's body. Proportions, hands. I also used the photogrammetry model as a sort of a quick reference, apart from the on-set photos that I had to adhere to and make fixes if I have deviated from proportions too much. But the tricky thing about these photogrammetry meshes is that they are not really exact. As a matter of fact, it actually distracted me quite a lot and made me make mistakes that I would fix later on. Back in Blender, I have also quickly created some details that were present on the back of the main character of the music video according to the references. After I have finished working on the main character's body, I have put more emphasis on likeness. But I have very limited time frame for this task, and I was told that the model would only appear as a silhouette in the final shots, so I did what I could with what resources and references I had at the moment. And again, after finishing the second pass of the sculpt in Zbrush, I have sent the model back to Blender and quickly created my own procedural materials and rendered a series of quick images and sent it for feedback. After receiving positive feedback, I have worked some more on hands and other visible body parts. Upon finishing sculpting hands and feet, I have started the process of posing the model. I have brought in some prop assets like AK-47 that the statue of the main hero should hold and started working on the pose. According to the direction I have received, it should be replicating the statue of a Roman emperor 1-to-1. I have also had the task to create the garment for the statue. The main protagonist of the video is wearing a Japanese hakama kimono, so I have made some screenshots and overpainted the way hakama would look like. After that, I have started working on the clothing simulation in Marvelous Designer. At first, I was considering doing that part of the asset in Blender, but after several tries and having pathetic results, I have quickly dismissed that idea and proceeded with Marvelous Designer. Upon finishing simulating cloth in Marvelous Designer, I have sent it back to Blender to make the belt that the main protagonist was wearing on his hakama. After that, I have exported the garment mesh into Zbrush, where I remeshed it and reprojected its details, and started fixing some issues and emphasizing the folds on the garment so that it would be close to the reference of that Roman statue provided to me previously. Upon finishing the final stages of the sculpture, having all the elements placed where they should be, I have sent my model to Blender for super ultra fast and quick UV mapping. After finishing creating UVs for the model, I have prepared my model for the process of baking in Substance Painter. And after baking all high sculpture details to the mesh, I have proceeded with texturing. This was the final stage of me working on that asset. During the texturing process, I have been quickly making all the necessary changes, getting feedback, and removing some problems like texture seams. I would have spent way more time texturing the model and adding some details, but I had a very limited amount of time, so I have quickly finished texturing the main protagonist and made quick renders of it in Blender, and then I sent the final asset to the team. This sculpture asset has been used in the final shots of the music video in the desert. Other artists made some effects of destruction and placed it the way it was supposed to be according to the previews that they have created during the pre-production stages of the project. And that's basically it. I hope you enjoyed this walkthrough of the project I have worked on. I had a great pleasure working on it, and the credit to all the artists involved in the creation of this music video is in the description, and you can Google them up and check them out. And before you go, I would like to ask you to consider subscribing to my channel. During the quarantine in 2020, I have been working a lot on creating video tutorials and plan on releasing a lot of videos devoted to the topics of hard surface and organic modeling, sculpting scary creatures, rendering, rigging, animation, kit bashing, turning your projects from concept sketches to final 3D models, and so on. So please, if you feel like it, press on that subscribe button and have a great day.